Hey, I'm making a video here. How to get started with Tastytrade API. I'm gonna make a quick little Python script to basically just capture the account balance after going through the session process to get your session started. The session will be saved in a file, and then it will use it, verify it, use it, and then you can get your balance. Right, so first, I just made a folder in my server. I call it Tasty Balance. Added my config.py. This is where you have your username and password and API. And we're going to use these variables in the actual file so that we don't save these kind of sensitive data in the file itself, in the script. Okay. The first thing we need will be to to get the session token, right? And we can see here a bunch of other things are being called, and I don't have those. So let's see what we need. So I have here, let's see. So the first thing it does is just it defines the session, it defines the function. It's going to check if the file exists already or not. And if it doesn't exist, it's going to tell us that the file doesn't exist. If it does exist, it's going to give us the session token. Right, and then here it's going to give us, it's going to open the file. Basically, if it does exist, it'll open the file automatically, and then it's going to read it, the token. It's going to say the token is empty for some reason, and then it's going to get a new session token if needed. And then if the token is not valid, it's going to get a new token. So those are the three kind of paths that it could take. Okay, so first thing it's going to try is to get the token from the file. And where is the file? So we need to tell it where is the file. Okay, let's see here what we have. And I told it to save the file. I'm going to save the file in this folder rather than the other script that I have. I'll call this the tasty balance session.txt. Okay, so now it's going to pull that file and see if the session token is already there. I'm going to try to log it. In order to log it, it needs the login module to be loaded. So we're going to import the login module. Okay. And in order to check the path of the OS, basically to check this path to see if we can open it, it needs the OS module. So we need to also load the OS module. Okay. And then we're going to need to call the get session, get a new session function. All right. So we have our new get session function. And let's put that above here. Cool. So now it can get the new get session function, right? It's going to call that and then go through that. Here, there's nothing missing either. And here we're going to validate. All right, before we get to the validate, let's get the session token, get session function working. So first we need the URL, the API URL, and we don't have that. So we need to pull that. And remember that we had that in the config file. So API URL, and we're going to import our config. Oops, not config parser, just config. Believe that should work. And then we are going to use our API URL. So we're going to do API URL. So we're going to do basically this API URL is going to be defined as config.API URL, which is what we called it in here. Cool. In this case, they're both the same, so it's easy to see them. Okay. And then we're going to need the payload, which we need the login name, the username and password. And here will be the same thing. And we can do user equals config dot, what did I call it? User. Yep. User. Okay. And password. config that password. Cool. Now we're calling our username from here, user, and password, password. Okay, so this will pull the 3 variables from the config.py file. Okay, moving along. Now we could have this also be stored in the config file. Doesn't matter. This is not like a sensitive thing, and even the area URL is not really sensitive. This just lets you change from the certification server to the production server easily. So you can just change the URL here instead of changing all the codes, all the functions, the hard-coded URL. Okay. Okay, so now we have the session. So we have the URL and where we're going to get the session from. So it's going to be, api.tastyworks.com/sessions. We're going to hit that with the post request, with our payload being the login, username, and password, and our headers just being a content type application JSON, so it knows what kind of a format this is going to be being sent. We send in a JLoad, basically, that's why. So, and we need to do that with the requests module. So we need to load the requests module. And just to make sure, yep, requests module. So we need to import requests module. Cool. So now we have the request module loaded. Now this works. We're gonna, from the request module, we're gonna use the post. I'm gonna send to that URL with our payload. That is JavaScript. We're sending a JavaScript payload. And then we're just telling the server that we sent a JavaScript payload, a JSON payload, sorry, not JavaScript. Okay, if we get a response of 201, which means that I guess that's correct, we're gonna pull the data session token from it. I'm gonna write that into the file that we mentioned here. We're gonna write it into there, into the file, and we're gonna write the session token into it. So we're gonna write session token into the file, and then we're gonna return the session token back through this get session to like here, we'll return it here. So then we'll have the session token as our session token. So we both use it as a variable, in the memory, and save it to the file. Okay, so we have our get session token. Okay, and then now if it doesn't get a 201, it means that something happened. We failed. We'll get an error message. We print that, and then we return nothing. And it is an error message in the try here. We'll, again, more login basically going on, see what's happening. So we can get some error messages happening, going across, and then we can go from there. Okay, so the get session seems correct, seems all good. Everything's loaded. Let's just close it for now so we can move on. Okay, once we have the session token loaded, either we didn't have it and now we have it, or we already had it and now we have it into memory, we need to validate it. So let's validate it with the validate function. Okay, we have the validate function. I'm going to put that above here. Okay. All right, so we're going to validate with the authentication code, basically with the auth code or the token that we got, right? So we got the token either from the, we didn't have it and now we have it, or we already had it and now we have it, and now we need to validate it. So let's validate it. Validate, we're going to hit the URL I mentioned, session/validate. We're going to send the header, the token that we got, authentication code, and we are going to send out a post request with that information. We are going to get a 401, meaning that it's expired, it's valid. So we'll just it's called the get authentication session. We'll get a new one, and then we can validate the new one. Okay. And if we got a 201, then we already have a valid code. So we can just print it if we want to. And if we get some kind of error, then we can, print the error and see what's happening. Any other errors, also print them. Okay, so this validate seems all good. The get session seems all good. So that should be all session-wise. We should be good. What happened here? What did I copy? Oh. Okay. So session-wise, we should be good. All right, let's go back over here. This is kind of the beginning of my normal code, so we can get here. So we'll do the auth code. We'll do the session token that will give you the authentication code for entry in the accounts. For every account in my list, I'm going to do the following. In this case, we don't need to do that. Okay. We'll just do it once because we're not going to do multiple accounts. Okay. And we'll just do account. All right, getNetLink will be a new function. Okay, we'll get there in a second. Let's put the account. Let me pause the video and then I'll be right back. Okay, so now I put the account in the config file. I'm going to do account equals config.account. Okay, so now we have config.account, we have the account. All right, so we could do we don't need to do global because it's already global, so we can just, I believe, remove that. Okay. Oh yeah, not 100% sure the whole global part with the auth code, but we'll just leave it for now. All right, so we'll start the main, and this will be, we'll get the new session token. We're going to get the net. So now with the auth code, that's all we need for the login. And we're going to need to get the authentication code and the account to get the netLink. Okay, so let's create our netLink function. All right, so we have a get netLink function. Here we're going to hit the URL /account/account number /balances. We're going to send the header our authentication code to get validated and authenticated, I mean. We're going to send a get request rather than a post request. Send our headers, which is our headers over here. We're going to, we're going to pull from the response, that's a JSON response, we're going to pull the data item. And then from there, we're going to pull the net liquidation value. If we can't get that, then we'll assume it's going to be a 0. And then we're going to turn that into a float. In my case, I want to turn it into an int because I don't really care about the cents. And here, I want to also get the buying power. So they have the derivative buying power. If I can't get it, then I'll do that 0. And get that into a float. And then turn it to an int because I don't care about the cents. And then I'll do the small calculation to get the buying power usage. So buying power divided by netLink times 100 minus 100 times -1, all that stuff. Basically, if netLink not equals to 0, then 0. So just some math there. It'll give you the percent of the buying power usage right now. And then we'll print it. We're going to print the account number. I'm only going to print the first 4 numbers. Yeah, the first, is that the first 4 or the last 4? I believe it's the first 4. And then we're going to do print the netLink, the buying power, and then the buying power utilization. I'm going to return the whole thing as a JSON from this function. If we get errors, we'll code it. We'll log it, print them. So here we are returning with the JSON and then netLink list. We can pull from the JSON that we returned buying power utilization here, for example. And then we can say if over 90%, then buying power is too high. All right, and if all good, we can continue. So this is because like the rest of my code and my function, it does a bunch of other things. In this specific case, example, we'll just pull, for example, the buying power utilization. Rather than saying if, we'll just print it so you can see that it works. So we'll do print, and we'll print the buying power utilization. We're gonna do that. Let's print it like buying power, current buying power utilization. Cool. All right, so we have this, and then we'll just have to do is just call the function main, and that should work. Now, the first time, I believe it will fail because we don't have a valid code. It'll get the code, it'll store the code, and then the second time it'll work just fine. So let's give it a try. So we have our we're gonna call Python 3 into, so the file can see here that we just made the config and the main. I'm going to call it with Python 3 main.py. And we have errors. Like I said, we have invalid credentials, but they should have received, pulled the new code, the new authentication code, stored it, and now if we pull it again, let's see. Oh, that's right, I didn't change the actual username and password. Be right back. Okay, so now I changed my username and password to be the actual username and password in the config file. So it should work now. Cool. So we have our current power utilization, 85%. We'll see our net link and buy power, and you can see that it works. And then from there, you can just go crazy. All right, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thank you.